welcome to Myths and Slumber. Tonight, we explore the sacred realms of Hindu mythology, where gods dance across cosmic oceans and ancient wisdom flows like the eternal Ganges. If ancient myths are your kind of bedtime story, subscribe before you drift off. Now get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the ancient stories carry you to sleep. Close your eyes now, and let yourself drift into the eternal realm where time moves in great cosmic cycles. Feel your breath becoming as steady as the turning of the celestial wheel, as ancient as the sacred rivers that flow from the highest mountains to the endless sea. Tonight, we journey into the vast tapestry of Hindu mythology, where gods dance the universe into existence, where heroes face impossible trials, and where every story contains the seeds of profound wisdom. These are not merely tales, but sacred truths that have guided countless souls across millennia, whispered in temple courtyards, carved into stone, and carried in the hearts of seekers. In this mystical realm, the divine takes countless forms. Sometimes appearing as the cosmic dancer whose footsteps shake the foundations of reality. Sometimes as the preserver who maintains the delicate balance of all existence. Sometimes as the loving cowherd whose flute calls all creation home. Let yourself settle deeper now, like a leaf floating on the sacred Ganges, carried by currents older than memory. Release the concerns of this small moment, this brief lifetime, and open your awareness to the eternal stories that connect us all to the infinite mystery of being. Before the first star learned to shine, before the first word was spoken, there was only the vast, undifferentiated consciousness known as Brahman. Not a being, but being itself. Not a god among gods, but the very essence from which all gods, all worlds, all possibilities would emerge. In this primordial silence, the first sound began to vibrate. Om. The sacred syllable that contains within itself all sounds that ever were or ever will be. This cosmic vibration stirred the infinite potential of Brahman, and from this stirring came the first movement toward creation. From the depths of this cosmic consciousness emerged Brahma, the creator, seated upon a lotus that bloomed from the navel of Vishnu, the preserver. Vishnu himself lay sleeping upon the great serpent Ananta, whose 1,000 heads held up the cosmic waters in which all possibilities floated like dreams waiting to be born. As Brahma opened his eyes for the first time, 4 faces appeared around his divine head, each looking toward one of the cardinal directions. From these faces would come the 4 Vedas, the sacred knowledge that would guide creation itself. With each breath of the Creator, universes expanded and contracted like flowers opening and closing in an eternal garden of reality. But creation required more than just a beginning. It needed preservation, and it needed the sacred destruction that makes new life possible. And so the cosmic trinity was complete: Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer and regenerator, the great dancer whose movements maintain the eternal rhythm of existence. Shiva appeared in his cosmic dance, the Tandava, his hair flowing with the sacred Ganges, his third eye containing the fire of universal dissolution. In one hand he held the drum of creation, in another the flame of destruction. His dance was neither violent nor gentle, but perfectly balanced, maintaining the eternal cycle where every ending becomes a new beginning. From these 3 divine principles, the first worlds began to take shape. The heavenly realms where gods would dwell in eternal light. The earthly realm where humans would play out their dramas of love and loss, learning and forgetting, seeking and finding. And the underworlds where beings would work through the karmic debts of countless lifetimes. Each realm was interconnected, like chambers in an infinite palace. Actions in one realm would ripple across all others. The prayers of humans would nourish the gods. The blessings of gods would sustain creation. The great cosmic law of Dharma would ensure that all beings eventually found their way home to the source from which they came. In the early ages of creation, when the worlds were young and the boundaries between realms were fluid like morning mist, both gods and demons were born from the same cosmic womb. They were not opposites, but complementary forces, light and shadow dancing together in the great play of existence. The Devas, the shining ones who would become known as gods, embodied the forces of harmony, knowledge, and spiritual elevation. Their leader was Indra, wielder of the thunderbolt, king of the heavens, whose strength came not from conquest but from his dedication to maintaining cosmic order. Around him gathered the other gods: Agni, the sacred fire who carried prayers to higher realms, Vayu, the wind who brought the breath of life to all beings, Varuna, guardian of cosmic truth and the vast waters that surround all worlds. But from the same primordial essence came the Asuras, the titans whose power often exceeded that of the gods themselves. They were not evil, but represented the necessary forces of chaos, change, and material manifestation. Their king was often Bali, generous and noble, whose devotion sometimes surpassed even that of the gods. The tension between these forces created the dynamic energy that kept creation alive and growing. Without the challenging power of the Asuras, the gods might have become complacent. Without the harmony of the Devas, the Asuras might have dissolved creation back into primordial chaos. This cosmic balance was tested in the great churning of the ocean, the Samudra Manthan, when both gods and demons realized they needed the nectar of immortality to fulfill their cosmic roles. Using Mount Mandara as their churning rod and the great serpent Vasuki as their rope, they began to churn the cosmic ocean, working together despite their differences. As they churned, wonders beyond imagination emerged from the depths. First came Halahala, a poison so potent it threatened to dissolve all creation. In his infinite compassion, Shiva drank this poison, holding it in his throat, which turned blue from its power. Then came Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune and beauty, who chose Vishnu as her eternal consort. The sacred cow Kamadhenu emerged, granting all wishes. The celestial horse Akalaisras appeared, swift as thought itself. Finally, Dhanvantari, the divine physician, arose carrying a pot of Amrita, the nectar of immortality. But when the time came to share this precious gift, conflict arose. The demons, being more numerous and powerful, claimed the larger portion. This is when Vishnu took his first great incarnation, appearing as Mohini, the enchantress whose beauty could captivate even the cosmic forces themselves. With gentle wisdom and divine feminine power, she managed to distribute the nectar fairly, though not without cosmic consequences that would echo through all future ages. One demon, Rahu, disguised himself among the gods and managed to taste the nectar. The sun and moon, who witnessed this deception, reported it to Vishnu. With his discus, Vishnu severed Rahu's head, but since the demon had tasted immortality, his head and body both survived as separate entities. Thus were born Rahu and Ketu, the shadow planets who would forever chase the sun and moon across the sky, occasionally catching them to create eclipses. When Dharma weakens and the cosmic order begins to tremble, when righteousness seems overwhelmed by the forces of corruption and ignorance, Vishnu descends into creation itself, taking form to restore balance and guide beings back to truth. These sacred incarnations, the avatars, are not conquests but acts of divine love, appearing precisely when and where they are most needed. The first avatar was Matsya, the cosmic fish, who appeared when the first great dissolution threatened to wash away all knowledge and life. As the waters rose to engulf creation, Matsya guided Manu, the first human, along with the seeds of all life and the sacred Vedas, safely through the cosmic flood. The fish grew larger and larger, until it became vast enough to carry an entire world on its back, teaching that even the humblest form can contain infinite divine power. When the earth herself sank beneath the cosmic waters, weighed down by negativity and corruption, Vishnu became Varha, the great boar whose strength comes from connection to the earth itself. Diving deep into the cosmic ocean, Varha found the earth goddess and lifted her up on his tusks, carrying her back to her rightful place in the cosmic order. This was not violence but rescue, not conquest but restoration of what belongs together. As Narasimha, the man-lion, Vishnu appeared to protect his devoted child Prahlada, whose faith remained unshaken even when his own father, the demon king Hiranyakashipu, tried to destroy it. The demon king had received a boon that he could not be killed by man or animal, day or night, inside or outside, by any weapon. But divine love finds ways beyond all limitations. At twilight, neither day nor night, on his doorstep, neither inside nor outside, Narasimha appeared, neither fully man nor animal, and used his claws, which were not weapons, to end the tyranny and protect innocence. In his incarnation as Vamana, the dwarf Brahmin, Vishnu taught the profound lesson that spiritual power often appears in the most humble forms. When the demon king Bali had gained control over all three worlds through his devotion and generosity, Vamana appeared asking for just 3 paces of land. Bali, known for his charity, gladly agreed. But as soon as he consented, Vamana began to grow, taking his cosmic form. With his first step, he covered the entire earth. With his second, all the heavens. For his third step, he asked Bali where he should place his foot. In that moment, Bali understood and offered his own head, demonstrating the surrender that transforms even demons into devotees. Parshurama, the warrior sage with the divine axe, appeared to restore the balance between spiritual and worldly power. When the warrior class had become corrupt and oppressive, forgetting their duty to protect rather than exploit, Parshurama cleared the earth of corrupt rulers 21 times. But his true teaching was not about violence, it was about the responsibility that comes with power, and the vigilance required to prevent authority from becoming tyranny. Then came Rama, perhaps the most beloved of all avatars, whose life became the perfect example of how to live with honor, duty, and love even in the face of loss and exile. Born as a prince in Ayodhya, Rama willingly gave up his throne to honor his father's word, spending 14 years in the forest with his devoted wife Sita and loyal brother Lakshmana. When Sita was abducted by Ravana, the 10-headed king of Lanka, Rama's rescue of her became not just a personal quest but a cosmic battle between Dharma and Adharma, between harmony and chaos. In the golden city of Ayodhya, where Dharma ruled and every citizen lived in harmony with cosmic law, King Dashratha prepared to crown his eldest son Rama as heir to the throne. But the threads of destiny are woven by forces beyond human understanding, and sometimes the greatest service to Dharma requires the greatest personal sacrifice. Kakeyi, one of Dashratha's queens, had once saved the king's life in battle and been granted 2 boons. Influenced by her servants' jealous whispers, she chose this moment to claim those promises, that her son Bharata should be crowned king, and that Rama should be exiled to the forest for 14 years. The aging king's heart broke, but a promise given by a righteous ruler cannot be broken. When Rama learned of this turn of fate, he received the news with perfect equanimity. "A son's duty is to honor his father's word," he said simply. "What difference does it make whether I serve Dharma from a palace or from the forest?" Sita, his beloved wife, whose name means furrow because she was born from the earth itself when her father was plowing a sacred field, refused to be separated from her husband. "Where the husband goes, there the wife's dharma leads her," she declared. And Lakshmana, Rama's devoted brother, could not bear to remain in comfort while Rama faced exile. Together, the 3 of them left the palace, walking toward the forest like gods voluntarily descending into the world of mortals. Their years in the forest were not punishment but preparation, not exile but pilgrimage. They lived simply, in harmony with nature, visited by sages who recognized the divine presence even in these humble circumstances. Rama's vow protected the innocent from demons who troubled the peace of hermitages. Sita's presence blessed every grove they rested in. Lakshmana's loyalty created a circle of protection around them both. But in the 10th year of their exile, their peace was shattered by the arrival of Surpanaka, sister of Ravana, the 10-headed king of Lanka. Ravana was not merely a demon but a great scholar, a master of the Vedas, whose 10 heads represented his mastery of the 6 systems of philosophy and the 4 Vedas. His power came from years of intense spiritual practice, but that power had been corrupted by ego and desire. When Surpanaka's advances were gently refused and she was wounded in the conflict that followed, she flew to Lanka in rage, describing Sita's beauty to her brother in words that ignited desire in Ravana's heart. Here was his chance, he thought, to possess something that belonged to the avatar he saw as his rival. Ravana sent his uncle Maricha, disguised as a golden deer of impossible beauty, to lure Rama away from their hermitage. Sita, enchanted by the deer's beauty, asked Rama to capture it for her. Though he sensed deception, Rama could not refuse his beloved's request. He left Lakshmana to guard Sita and pursued the deer deep into the forest. Ravana approached in the guise of a holy man, asking for alms. Sita, trained in the dharma of hospitality, could not refuse a request from what appeared to be a sage. The moment she stepped outside Lakshmana's protective circle to offer food, Ravana revealed his true form and carried her away in his aerial chariot, flying south toward Lanka across the vast ocean. When Rama returned to find Sita gone, his anguish shook the very foundations of the earth. For a moment, the Avatar experienced the full pain of human loss, demonstrating that divine love does not diminish suffering but transforms it into compassion for all beings who experience separation from what they cherish most. The brothers began their search immediately, following clues through the dense forests of the Deccan. They encountered Jatayu, the noble eagle who had tried to rescue Sita from Ravana's chariot and been mortally wounded in the attempt. With his dying breath, Jatayu told them that Ravana had flown south toward Lanka, and Rama performed the funeral rites for this brave ally with the tenderness he would have shown a beloved family member. Their search led them to Kishkinda, the kingdom of the Vanaras, the monkey people who possessed both animal strength and human intelligence. Here they met Hanuman, whose very name means one with a strong jaw, but whose true strength lay in his devotion, his courage, and his perfect selfless service. Hanuman was the son of Vayu, the wind god, and could leap across oceans, grow to enormous size, or become as small as a thumb. But the Vanara kingdom was divided by conflict between two brothers, Vali, the mighty king, and Sugriva, who had been exiled after a misunderstanding. Rama helped Sugriva reclaim his throne by defeating Vali in single combat, but not without first ensuring that justice was truly served and that Vala's death served the greater good of Dharma. Grateful for Rama's help, Sugriva commanded all the Vanaras to join the search for Sita. Thousands of monkey warriors spread across the land in all directions, but it was Hanuman who volunteered for the most difficult task, crossing the vast ocean to search the island of Lanka itself. At the southern tip of the subcontinent, where the land meets the endless waters, Hanuman prepared for his great leap. The ocean stretched to the horizon, and Lanka lay somewhere beyond sight, protected by Ravana's magical defenses. But devotion knows no obstacle too great. Hanuman invoked his father Vayu, grew to enormous size, and with a leap that carried the prayers of all righteous beings, soared across the ocean like a mountain flying through the sky. In Lanka, he found a city of gold and precious stones, beautiful beyond description but somehow shadowed by the presence of unrighteousness. Searching through gardens and palaces, he finally discovered Sita in the Ashoka Grove, sitting beneath a tree, guarded by fierce Rakshasi demonesses but maintaining her dignity and her faith in Rama's eventual arrival. Her body was there in Lanka, but her heart remained with Rama, and this spiritual constancy created a protective force that even Ravana's power could not overcome. When Hanuman revealed himself and gave Sita Rama's ring as proof of his authenticity, her joy was like the sun rising after the darkest night. But she refused Hanuman's offer to carry her back to Rama immediately. "Let Rama himself come to rescue me," she said, "so that the world may witness the power of Dharma over Adharma, of love over possession, of truth over deception." Before leaving Lanka, Hanuman decided to give Ravana a demonstration of the forces that were gathering against him. He allowed himself to be captured, and when brought before the ten-headed king, he spoke with the authority of truth itself. "You still have time to return Sita and ask Rama's forgiveness. He is merciful beyond measure to those who acknowledge their mistakes." But when Ravana ordered Hanuman's tail to be set on fire, thinking to humiliate this messenger, Hanuman used the flame to set fire to parts of Lanka itself, demonstrating that the power of devotion can turn any attack into a blessing, any weapon into a tool for righteousness. When Hanuman returned across the ocean with news of Sita's location and well-being, the army of Vanaras erupted in celebration that could be heard from mountain peak to mountain peak. But Rama, though filled with relief and gratitude, knew that the greatest challenge still lay ahead. Lanka was an island fortress, protected by the vast ocean and defended by Rakshasa warriors whose power in battle was legendary. The Vanara army reached the southern shore where the land ended and the endless waters began. For ordinary beings, this would have been an insurmountable obstacle. The ocean stretched to the horizon, vast and deep, home to creatures of immense power and mystery. But when Dharma is at stake and hearts are united in righteous purpose, the impossible becomes inevitable. Rama stood at the water's edge and offered prayers to Varuna, the lord of the ocean, requesting passage for his army. For 3 days he prayed with perfect patience and reverence, but the ocean remained silent, its waves continuing their eternal rhythm as if unaware of this cosmic drama unfolding on its shores. On the 4th day, Rama's patience transformed into divine determination. He fitted an arrow to his bow, an arrow infused with the power to dry up the entire ocean. As he drew the bowstring, the waters themselves began to tremble, and sea creatures fled to the deepest depths. Finally Varuna appeared, rising from the waves in his luminous form, bearing gifts from the ocean's treasury. "Forgive me, noble Rama," the ocean lord said with deep respect. "I cannot alter my nature by becoming shallow or still. The cosmic order requires that I remain what I am. But I can support what is built upon me." He then revealed Nala and Nila, two Vanera brothers who possessed the divine gift of making anything they touched float upon water. What followed was one of the greatest cooperative efforts in all mythology. The entire Vanera army worked together, gathering boulders from mountains, trees from forests, and stones from riverbeds. Everything that Nala and Nila touched and blessed became lighter than wood upon the water. Hanuman carried mountain peaks as easily as pebbles. Other Vanaras worked in perfect coordination, each contributing according to their strength and ability. As they built, even a small squirrel joined the effort, carrying tiny pebbles and sand to fill the gaps between the great stones. When some of the Vanaras laughed at such a small contribution, Rama gently stroked the little creature's back, and the marks of his fingers remained as stripes, honoring the truth that every sincere effort, no matter how small, is precious in the cosmic work of righteousness. Day by day, the bridge grew, stretching across the waters toward Lanka. It was not merely a physical construction but a manifestation of collective faith, each stone placed with devotion, each section completed with prayers for the success of Dharma. The Rakshasa spies who watched from Lanka reported to Ravana that the bridge seemed to be building itself, as if the very elements were cooperating with Rama's righteous purpose. When the bridge was complete, stretching across the ocean like a pathway between worlds, the Vanera army crossed in a celebration of courage and devotion. Rama and Lakshmana rode upon Hanuman's shoulders, and their presence blessed every step of the journey. Behind them came thousands of Vanera warriors, their hearts united in the single purpose of restoring Sita to her rightful place beside Rama and demonstrating that love and righteousness will always ultimately prevail over possession and pride. As they reached the shores of Lanka, the golden city that had seemed so beautiful from a distance revealed the shadows that unchecked power casts even over paradise. The final confrontation between Dharma and Adharma, between the love that liberates and the desire that imprisons, was about to begin. The war that followed was not merely between armies but between two fundamental ways of understanding the nature of existence itself. On one side stood Ravana, whose 10 heads represented vast learning and power, but whose heart had been corrupted by the belief that might makes right, that desire can be fulfilled through force, that the strong are entitled to take whatever they want from the weak. On the other side stood Rama, whose single head contained the wisdom of perfect Dharma, who understood that true strength comes from service, that love cannot be possessed but only offered freely. The battle began at dawn, with the Rakshasa forces pouring from Lanka's golden gates like a dark flood. These were not ordinary demons but highly skilled warriors, masters of illusion and shape-shifting, capable of fighting in the air as easily as on the ground. Their leader was Ravana's son Indrajit, who had once defeated Indra himself and earned his name, Conqueror of Indra. His arrows could create entire armies of phantom warriors, making one fighter appear as thousands. But the Vanera army fought with the strength that comes from righteous purpose. Hanuman battled with the power of absolute devotion, growing to giant size when needed, becoming invisible when stealth served better than strength. Sugrava led his warriors with the courage of one who had learned that true kingship means protecting others rather than protecting oneself. The battles lasted many days, with victories and losses on both sides. When Indrajit used his most powerful weapon, the Nagapasha, serpent arrows that bound Rama and Lakshmana in coils that could not be broken by physical strength, it seemed that Dharma itself might be defeated. But Garuda, the great eagle who serves as Vishnu's vehicle, appeared from the heavens, and at his presence all serpents lost their power. The bonds dissolved, and Rama and Lakshmana rose again, demonstrating that divine power may be temporarily obscured but never truly conquered. The turning point came when Lakshmana was struck down by Indrajit's Shakti, a spear blessed by Shiva himself. As Rama's beloved brother lay dying, the avatar's anguish threatened to consume him. But Hanuman immediately leaped across the subcontinent to the Himalayas, where the herb Sanjeevani grew on the slopes of Mount Dronagiri, the healing plant that could restore life even to the dead. Unable to identify the specific herb in the darkness, and with dawn approaching when the medicine would lose its power, Hanuman made a decision that embodied the essence of devotion. He lifted the entire mountain peak and carried it back to Lanka. The mountain's presence healed not only Lakshmana but all the wounded warriors on both sides, demonstrating that true spiritual power seeks to heal rather than to harm, to restore rather than to destroy. The final battle shook the earth and heavens. Ravana's 10 heads seemed to give him overwhelming advantage, for when one was struck down, another would take its place. But Rama understood that the source of Ravana's power lay not in his heads but in his heart, where his life force was stored. With an arrow blessed by all the gods and charged with the power of perfect Dharma, Rama pierced Ravana's heart, and the 10-headed king of Lanka fell like a mountain crumbling into the sea. As Ravana died, his 10 heads spoke one final word in unison, Rama. In that moment, the great scholar's true devotion was revealed, and his soul was liberated from the prison of ego that had trapped it. For even his opposition to the avatar had been a form of worship, a way of staying connected to the divine through conflict when he could not surrender through love. When Sita was finally restored to Rama's side, their reunion was like the sun joining its own radiance, like a river meeting the ocean from which it originally came. But their trials were not yet over. The demands of royal duty and public perception would test them once more, teaching that even divine love must sometimes accept separation in service of a higher dharma. The return to Ayodhya was a celebration that lasted for days, with flowers raining from the heavens and every being rejoicing in the victory of righteousness. Rama's 14 years of exile were complete, and he ascended to his father's throne, ruling with such wisdom and compassion that his reign became known as Rama Rajya, the perfect kingdom where dharma flourished and every being lived in harmony with cosmic law. In the cosmic wheel of time, as ages turned and the memory of Rama's perfect dharma began to fade from human consciousness, Vishnu prepared for his most complete and beloved incarnation. Krishna would be born not in a palace but in a prison cell, not to nobility but to parents who would have to give him up to protect his very life. From his first breath, his life would demonstrate that the divine appears most powerfully not in circumstances of worldly success but in moments when love and faith are the only resources available. The tyrant Kamsa, king of Mathura, had received a prophecy that the 8th child of his sister Devki would be the cause of his death. In his fear, he imprisoned Devki and her husband Vasudeva, planning to kill each child as it was born. But when Krishna entered the world at midnight during a storm that shook the very foundations of the prison, divine power manifested in the most tender way possible. The prison doors opened by themselves, the guards fell into deep sleep, and the chains binding Vasudeva dissolved like mist. Guided by love stronger than fear, Vasudeva carried the newborn Krishna across the raging Yamuna river, whose waters parted to allow passage, and exchanged him with a daughter born the same night to Nanda and Yashoda in the village of Gokula. Thus Krishna, the Lord of the universe, began his earthly life as a cowherd's child, surrounded not by royal luxury but by the simple, pure love of foster parents whose devotion knew no bounds. From his earliest childhood, Krishna's divine nature expressed itself through what appeared to be mischief but was actually cosmic play, Lila, the joy through which the divine engages with creation. He would steal butter from neighboring houses, not from hunger but from delight in the loving chase that would follow, the scolding that was really blessing, the community bonds that grew stronger with each shared laugh. When the village mothers complained to Yashoda about his pranks, Krishna would open his mouth to deny the accusations, and she would see within it the entire universe, all stars, all worlds, all beings, spinning in perfect harmony. As he grew, Krishna's flute became the sound that called all creation home to its source. When he played by the Yamuna river at moonrise, the very trees would bend to listen, peacocks would dance in ecstasy, and the river herself would slow her flow to better hear the music. The gopis, the cowherd girls who loved him, would leave their household duties, their families, their very sense of individual identity, and dance with him in the sacred Rasa Lila, the dance of divine love where every soul experiences perfect union with the beloved. But Krishna's childhood in Vrindavan was also marked by encounters with demons sent by Kamsa to destroy him. Each attack became an opportunity to demonstrate that divine power protects not through violence but through transformation. When the demoness Putana came disguised as a beautiful woman, offering her poisoned breast, infant Krishna nursed from her and transformed the poison into nectar, liberating her soul in the very act of feeding. When the serpent demon Kaliya poisoned the waters of the Yamuna, Krishna danced upon his heads until the serpent surrendered, then blessed him and sent him to a safer realm where his nature would not harm innocent beings. Perhaps the most profound demonstration of Krishna's divine nature came when he lifted Mount Govardhan to protect the village from Indra's jealous storm. When the people of Vrindavan decided to worship the mountain that provided their daily sustenance rather than offer elaborate sacrifices to distant gods, Indra sent torrential rains to punish their seeming ingratitude. 7-year-old Krishna simply lifted the entire mountain on the tip of his little finger, holding it like an umbrella for 7 days and nights while all the villagers and their cattle sheltered beneath it. This was not a display of power over nature but a demonstration of love's willingness to bear any burden to protect those who are dear. As Krishna reached young manhood, the time came for him to leave Vrindavan and fulfill the larger cosmic purpose of his incarnation. His departure was like the sun setting on a perfect day, leaving behind the glow of memory but moving toward new dawns in other places. The gopis' grief at his leaving became the template for all spiritual longing, the ache of separation that ultimately transforms into the bliss of eternal connection. In Mathura, Krishna fulfilled the prophecy by defeating Kamsa, but not before offering his uncle every opportunity to choose love over fear, dharma over tyranny. When that transformation proved impossible, Krishna's victory was swift and merciful, ending Kamsa's suffering as much as his reign of terror. But Krishna's greatest teaching was yet to come, on a battlefield where the very future of dharma hung in the balance, where he would speak words that would guide seekers for thousands of years to come. The child who had played in Vrindavan, the youth who had danced with the gopis, the young man who had protected the innocent, would become the charioteer and guide whose wisdom would illuminate the path home for countless souls seeking truth in a world of apparent contradictions. As our journey through these sacred stories draws to a gentle close, let yourself rest in the timeless truth they reveal. These tales of gods and heroes, of creation and preservation, of love and duty, are not distant legends but living wisdom that speaks to the eternal questions of every human heart. Feel yourself cradled now in the vast compassion that flows through all these stories. Whether you see yourself in Rama's perfect devotion to duty, or in Sita's unwavering faith through trials, or in Hanuman's selfless service, or in Krishna's joyful embrace of all existence, you are held by the same divine love that sustains all beings across all times. Let the rhythm of your breathing connect you to the cosmic cycles these myths describe. With each inhalation, draw in the peace of knowing that dharma ultimately prevails, that love is stronger than fear, that every soul's journey leads eventually home. With each exhalation, release any sense of separation from the divine play that enfolds all existence. Rest now in the eternal present where all these stories continue to unfold, where gods still dance creation into being, where heroes still choose courage over safety, where love still transforms everything it touches. Sleep comes like the gentle close of a sacred text, not ending the story but allowing it to continue in the deeper wisdom of dreams and the even deeper wisdom of dreamless rest. May you awaken remembering that you too are part of this cosmic story, that your life too serves the eternal dance of creation, preservation, and transformation. May you carry with you the blessings of all these divine beings, and may your own journey unfold in harmony with the greatest good of all. If you're still awake, subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments, which myth or legend should we explore next? Sweet dreams.